You know that feeling when you're in a high-stakes multinational meeting
Hmm.
and everyone is technically speaking English, but the actual meaning is just completely lost in translation?
Oh, yeah, it happens constantly. And, the default reaction is usually to just double down on highly technical vocabulary, which, well, it just fractures the room even further.
Exactly. So today's deep dive tackles exactly that. We're looking at this exhaustive 27-day corporate training deck focused on the Master's Understanding Method. And the mission here isn't to teach you basic corporate jargon. I mean, you already know the vocabulary.
Right, right.
The goal is to look at how veteran communication consultants use physical visualization, turning abstract engineering concepts into tangible objects to completely synchronize the mental models of a diverse room.
Yeah, and we see this immediately with system architecture. The deck bypasses abstract words like capacity and instead visualizes an accordion for scalability.
Wait, an accordion?
Yeah, an accordion. Because capacity means totally different things depending on a person's cultural or, technical background. But an accordion has physical rules. It expands and contracts under pressure.
Right.
So when you frame scalability that way, you shift the room's mindset from simply, building a bigger server to actually designing for resilience. Everyone inherently understands that if you pull an accordion too hard, it breaks.
I have to challenge the next one, though.
Yeah.
They use grains of sand to visualize granularity, like coarse versus fine.
Yeah.
But doesn't fine granularity in a massive data system just equate to catastrophic information overload? You're basically asking the engineering team to sift through a desert.
Well, it becomes a desert if you're just hoarding data, sure. But the mechanism of the sand metaphor is really about precise control.
Oh, I see.
I mean, you can't build a highly detailed sandcastle with jagged rocks, right? By demanding finer granularity, you're not asking for more volume. You're establishing the required texture to mold the system effectively later on.
Oh, wow, that makes sense. So physical metaphors build the system, but where this method really proves its worth is when that system inevitably breaks down,
Yeah,
because panic destroys English fluency.
it really does. High-stress situations naturally trigger defensiveness. If a server crashes and you ask the room who is responsible for the latency, you trigger an immediate ego defense mechanism.
Yeah, people just stop problem solving and start protecting their jobs.
Exactly, which is why invoking the bottleneck is so strategic.
Right, because you take a highly charged interpersonal conflict
Yeah.
and you externalize it. You strip away the finger pointing because suddenly nobody is blaming the back end or the front end teams. You're collectively pointing at the geometry of a bottle.
Yes, it directs the action entirely toward the physical restriction. You completely neutralize the threat. And the same psychology applies to throwing a red flag.
Like in racing.
Exactly. You borrow a physical concept from racing culture. It doesn't mean, you're driving badly. It means the track is structurally unsafe right now, so we must pause.
Ooh, I like that. It bypasses hierarchy and permits anyone to halt a catastrophic deployment without making it like a personal attack.
Right. So the panic is paused, egos are intact. But now the senior leadership actually has to resolve the issue. And here, the language shifts again, away from identifying problems to managing expectations.
Yeah, this was the most crucial psychological pivot in the deck for me. You have to force clients or stakeholders to accept physical constraints. Visualizing a trade-off as a playground seesaw does exactly that.
A seesaw is brilliant because it forces the realization of gravity.
Right, you can't have both ends up in the air. If the client wants performance push sky high, they physically have to dump more weight onto the budget side. It turns a heated negotiation into an undeniable law of physics.
It forces rational balancing. And, when a stakeholder refuses to balance that seesaw and just demands a perfect zero-cost fix, well, that's when you deploy the silver bullet.
The werewolf thing.
Exactly. You invoke the werewolf myth not to define the term, but to remind the room that they are chasing a fairy tale. It grounds delusional expectations by comparing their request to literal fiction.
Applying this master's understanding method completely changes your role in a meeting. You aren't just participating in a technical debate. You are the one constructing the shared physical reality for the entire room.
You're giving everyone the exact same object to hold in their minds.
It's incredibly powerful. But before we wrap up, think about this. If introducing visual physical language is the key to neutralizing conflict and building consensus, what does it mean when a leader in your organization strictly relies on abstract, highly dense technical jargon?
That is a great question.
Are they just bad at communicating, or are they intentionally trying to hide something in the fog? Keep an eye out for that in your next stand-up.